here it is, broad daylight, cameras rolling, dozens of witnesses, and they're grabbing the mayor of the largest city in New Jersey, and they have no authority. And we've always called them, we've always said that this is going to be the secret police, and now this is what they're showing us.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Ashley with Status Coup. In today's absolutely horrendous deportation news, the Trump administration is said to have flown a dozen immigrants to South Sudan. According to litigators, ICE just put a dozen men on a flight to South Sudan, a country which is on the brink of civil war, in direct defiance of a court order requiring ICE to give people an opportunity to raise objections before being sent to a country not their own. So the administration that keeps telling us they will follow court orders.
But I can assure you that the administration is complying with the court order, and as I've said repeatedly from this podium, all of the flights that were subject to the judge's written order departed before the written order, and we are prepared to make that case in court.
Has defied yet another court order and has sent a dozen immigrants to a war-torn country that they did not come from without due process. This is yet another example of the inhumane, callous treatment of regular people who came to this country of immigrants in search of a better life. And this will be their last memory of the U.S. ICE and Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security has become a terror operation. And for more evidence of that, you can look to any one of the interviews that I've done in the new capital of ICE, New Jersey. We are in Newark, New Jersey, in front of Delaney Hall, where there is a small protest going on. And you, Kathy, you've been out here since at least yesterday?
No, actually, we started the end of April. A friend of mine started this the end of April. We heard that they were going to open this up prematurely. They had originally had plans to open this. Actually, the idea was to get here while they were doing training of the employees and to talk to them about what it was that the GEO group was going to be asking them to do, to try to impress upon them the gravity of locking people up for profit. And what that does to people. It's not, it's bad enough. I think it's pretty well known that prison guards have a way higher rate of suicide and depression and domestic violence and all those things that come with mental health issues from being subjected to trauma. They're part of this evil system too, and they're victims, in a different way, but they're victims of this, this horrible byproduct of capitalism.
Absolutely. And just, a quick note on that. GEO Group, they signed a 15-year long, as I'm sure you know, contract for $1 billion. So a $1 billion contract over 15 years, and they estimate that they are going to be bringing in $60 million in revenue each year. So, just to kind of put a fine point on this being a product of capitalism, the entirety of it.
And just an interesting side note, too, on the 15-year contract, the reason why it's 15 years, the reason why it got rushed through is because they have this small window right now, because the law that New Jersey signed in 2021, it said no ICE detention. It said that you could not sign a new contract or renew an old contract. Unfortunately, at the lower court, there was this carve-out specifically for core civic, and then GEO went to the court and asked for the same relief, it was granted. So now core civic and GEO can operate in New Jersey, and because it's a 15-year contract, even if the decision gets overturned at the Third Circuit, which is where it is now, and is affirmed by the Supreme Court, this stays here for 15 years. So that's really, that's disheartening, but it's all the more reason why we need to be out here and we need to be watching. And that's kind of the other idea is that, they're not going to tell us what's going on inside. So we need to sit here and we need to watch. We need to see, we can actually walk all the way to the back of their property, on county property, and and see what's going on. So we can walk around a lot of the property. So and we have been. So and we're taking notes and we're seeing who's coming in, when they're coming in, how many people are coming in. We're here when they decide to arbitrarily end visitation for families. We're here when families are afraid to go up to the gate because of all these armed whatever, I don't know what they are, ICE agents, I guess, that are here. So yeah, there's this kind of a multitude of reasons and purposes for us to be here, but
well, we appreciate you guys conducting like citizen oversight on the facility.
Yeah, well, like they won't let the Congress people in, and they won't let the mayor in, so we're going to do what we can. The other thing is, as long as they're sitting here looking at us and defending this, they can't be in the neighborhood. So we see that as a win.
So over the last, not even a week, right? It's been since Friday. Everything is kind of heated up. There's a lot of eyes on this detention center, so Delaney Hall, because Mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, was here attempting to conduct an oversight visit of the facility with 3 other representatives, as we know, and he was arrested. So now...
Back up. He wasn't arrested, because if it was ICE agents laying his hands on him, they have no right to lay hands on, and no authority to lay hands on a U.S. citizen. So, if those were ICE agents, we have no reason to think that. Here it is, broad daylight, cameras rolling, dozens of witnesses, and they're grabbing the mayor of the largest city in New Jersey, and they have no authority. And we've always said that this is going to be the secret police, and now this is what they're showing us. Now that the authoritarian tendencies of the Trump, as they unfold, this is what we always warned about, was that the way the Democrats set this up, right? Under the Clinton administration, and then under Bush, right? The ICE that he added to it. So, but with full support of the Democrats. So they had plenty of time to fix this. So we can't just say this is Trump. This is their mess too. And other than Bonnie Watson-Coleman and Rob Menendez and LaMonica McIver, like everybody else from the delegation was invited to be here. Andy Kim, Cory Booker, all the other Congress people. Those were the 3 who showed up. So the other ones, I don't know where they are. But if they want to claim that they're a part of the resistance and the opposition, they need to get their tails here.
Absolutely. And just, a kind of, let's say, side note on Cory Booker, who's gotten a lot of attention recently after his 25-hour-long speech.
It's blocked nothing.
Yeah, the would-be filibuster. This is something very material and very important that he could have been doing. And as you said, he was invited and chose not to show up. Only the 3 representatives as well as Ras Baraka actually showed up to be here. And Baraka has been a vocal critic, let's say, of this facility since before it opened.
Yeah, yes, exactly. We've always had a complicated relationship with Democrats, particularly in New Jersey, because before our law was passed, it was the Democrats who were holding all the contracts with ICE. So it was trying to get them to give up their contracts was a major hurdle to passing that law. So the Democrats have a lot of work to do if they want to convince people like me that they are the party with the moral compass.
Absolutely. I think over the last, however many months, years, decades that Trump has been in office, it's become kind of clear that a lot of what the Democrats had been warning about, they didn't actually have any kind of plan to fight against, and have continued to not have a plan. James Carville had said, initially, this again feels like years ago now, but he had said, the plan for Democrats is essentially to roll over and play dead. And they seem pretty committed to that outside of these kind of grand gestures. And now you have, we have people being disappeared, essentially. We have people being disappeared, immigrants, anyone who is voicing some kind of dissent. Stephen Miller has said that the White House is toying around with the idea of suspending habeas corpus, so the right to due process or to not be unlawfully detained and imprisoned. And again, all of this is happening, and Trump has said he doesn't know whether he believes in due process for immigrants, for everybody, essentially, then. And the Democrats do we think that they are doing enough? I mean, clearly, I can guess the answer to that.
So the thing about sitting on your hands, right, and that's one of the reasons, again, why we're here, like the thing about sitting on your hands is that every day you sit in your hands, somebody else gets fed into the detention and deportation machine. And it's, deportation is one of the most violent things that a government can do, short of capital punishment. You are separating a family for at least 10 years. You're sending people back a lot of times to countries that they fled for very good reasons. It's not unusual for people to be deported and end up homeless or dying from a treatable condition or being murdered or kidnapped or disappeared in their home country. So for every day that the Democrats sit on their hands and do nothing, one more person gets fed in. And we can see now what the Trump administration is just taking hundreds of people and putting them on planes to Libya and to El Salvador and whoever else they can find, and Rwanda. Yeah, it's just, I can't even, we need to be here for the people who are coming here so that we can pull as many people out, save as many people from that fate as we possibly can. And I don't want to sound like all white savior-y or whatever, but there are people that are suffering right now. There are people that are going through tremendous trauma, and the least we can do is be here with them. And if we can connect them to services that are going to help them, then great.
Absolutely, and I don't think that sounds white saviory at all. It just sounds like, as you said, there are people who are struggling. We're all working people. We all need to pick a side. And there is one side that is on the right, and there is another that is not. So, it's in defense of people who currently are not able to fully defend themselves. And I think that's something we should, quite frankly, all be doing. We need to be in our communities. We need to be standing up for our community members and the people who live alongside us. All of the working people who are just struggling, just as we are, in the same ways, in different ways. It doesn't really matter.
And we can see all the work that everyone has done up until this point, how things are playing out much differently here in New Jersey. Like, we have people here. We have people trained in rapid response. We have DDDI, which is free defense for people who can't afford it. We have the Immigrant Trust Directive, which should be turned into the Immigrant Trust Act, but we do have the Immigrant Trust Directive that directs the police that they cannot cooperate with ICE except in certain circumstances. This is something that they don't have. Actually, they have a law in, I think it's Tennessee now, that you can't have anything like that. And they don't have that in Massachusetts. And we can see what's happening in Massachusetts, where the police in certain localities are cooperating openly with ICE. And people are being ripped out of their homes and their cars and all kinds of crazy scenes that have not yet played out here.
Absolutely, and we just reported on one that, kind of made the rounds, so I'm sure you saw this, but we reported on the Worcester, Massachusetts mother who was, you can see in the video, dragged away while she was trying to, cling to her infant child, and her teenage daughter can be heard screaming in the video, who I believe was also detained. It's just insanely scary for all of us, not just for immigrants, but for everybody.
But the hopeful thing from that video was that in Worcester, Massachusetts, a working class town that's like someplace that Trump should be really strong in, the neighbors came out. And the neighbors came out and they put their bodies on the line. And that's what happened here yesterday, is people came out and they put their bodies on the line. So when Cory Booker sits on the steps and he has this nice little chat with Hakeem Jeffries, and then he stands up on the Senate floor, he's not risking anything. He's just building his base for his run for president, right? So they need to, like I said, I'm going to say it again, they need to get their tails out here. They need to come and talk to the people who are coming here. They need to talk to the people who are coming to visit their loved ones, because they'll hear the stories about what's going on in there. And they don't have to necessarily go inside. They can talk to the people who are here, and they can figure out how can we get involved? How can we throw sand in the gears? How can we slow this down? And that's exactly what Ras Baraka was trying to do. He was trying to slow this down. And that's why they opened this up in a hurry, because he was getting ready to padlock the door. But now we can't do that because there's people inside.
Right, and you're saying representatives should come out here. They don't even have to go outside. They can talk to the people who have been out here because you guys have heard things. You know what's going on. Can you talk a little bit about that, about what you've heard or seen about what's actually going on in the facility? You said that you're able to kind of get on the property. What else have you guys seen that you can share?
I mean, we were seeing in February there were tons and tons of trucks here doing work. So, and like as Mayor Baraka was saying, they had no permits for anything. And then there was also, you go down there was tons and tons of pallets that obviously they were bringing things in on pallets, and there's ladders and there's paint buckets. So they're still doing work inside, and that's what we hear from people who have been inside. They still have people who've been inside who are saying there's just stuff everywhere. There's boxes and things in hallways and potentially blocking doors. So they were not ready to open. And we're concerned that the facility, when it was operating as a halfway house, Essex County commissioned a study, and they were allowed inside, right, and did a whole audit of all the processes inside the jail when it was running as a halfway house, and they found that there was exposed wiring in the jails inside of the facility. They found that there were mop buckets laying around in places that that was unsafe and unsecured. Fire extinguishers, but generally things that needed to be addressed
before the facility actually opened.
We've been monitoring this facility on and off for years. We've written reports about it. I have a report from 2011 about the history of it, how we were fighting this becoming an ICE detention facility back during the Obama administration. It's been on our radar. We are connected to and work with organizations whose primary concern is criminal lockup, criminal incarceration. And we share information back and forth, and we share concerns about the reliance on prisons, on jails, on making money off of bodies. So it's not we just showed up last week. It's not that we just care about immigrants. It's and you'll see there's people from Newark who come down, and the Ironbound Community Corp is one of the people we work with, and they're the ones who are giving us the information on the environmental concerns that are here. This is actually built on a toxic site. The parking lot and the foundation of the building are serving as a cap for toxic waste. So,
serving as a cap for toxic waste? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. One of the methods for cleaning up toxic waste, just in general, is that you cap it in place. So that it can't move, and that's considered if you contain it, then that's considered a remediation strategy. I haven't looked at the documents that closely. We don't know what standard exactly it was remediated up to. Was it remediated up to industrial or commercial standards, or was it? We're certain it was not remediated up to residential standards. So, and this whole area, by the way, they would not allow a hotel to be here. They would not allow a nursing home to be here. Any kind of residential facility would not be allowed to be here. But for some reason, we have this jail and that jail.
Right, and for people who aren't able to actually see what's around, this is kind of just a industrial park area. An industrial park, we have a rail line over there to my right. So it's industry, warehousing, that kind of thing.
Oh, it's,
as far as I can tell, anyway.
yes, no, it's heavy industry. It's garbage. There's a recycling center. There's a sewage treatment plant. There's a fat rendering plant.
Okay, so things that notoriously pollute the environment around them.
Yes, there's also a garbage incinerator not too far away. So today, for some reason, I don't know what, maybe the wind is blowing off a certain way, but if the wind shifts, it is nauseating, the smells, the odors that are here. And then the odors do get inside the facility.
Okay, that is horrible. That is just horrible, and there's so many, sacrifice zones throughout the U.S. This is another one of them where we have, some of our most vulnerable people there. Where, this is not a prison. Also, to just note, this is an immigration detention center, so it's. Yeah, it's not a prison, but there's barbed wire on those fences. People are not allowed to leave. People are not allowed to wear their own clothes. They have to wear jumpsuits. We're not allowed to go in and talk to them except during very certain visiting hours. So I take it back. It is a prison.
And there's, some people say we shouldn't call it a jail because it's not.
Sounds like that is a technicality.
Yes. Yes, it is a legal technicality. So,
I guess I would just ask, before I ask what organization you work with and what kind of stuff you guys actually do, because it sounds like you guys do a lot in your community, I would also just want to ask if there's anything else that you would want viewers of Status Coup to know about Delaney Hall, about this whole situation, given the political landscape that we are all operating within right now.
What I want people to know, I think I said before, I want people to understand that Raz Baraka was not arrested. He was abducted. He was abducted in broad daylight in front of dozens of witnesses, and two congresswomen of color, one who's 80 years old, were assaulted as well. So if they're going to do that to the mayor of the largest city of New Jersey, they're coming for all of us too. So what people need to do is they need to get not just out in the street, they need to pick their targets. They need to find the detention facility, the ICE office, the immigration court near them, and they need to do the same thing. They need to be sitting there, sitting vigil, watching ICE, finding out what they're doing, and seeing how they can help the people who are caught up. Because right now, it's our brothers and sisters and siblings who are immigrants, but tomorrow it's us.
Absolutely. So I think that's a good final question as far as the interview goes. I would just ask, what organizations do you work with? What kind of stuff do you guys do in Newark, New Jersey?
I primarily organize with Pax Christi New Jersey, and as part of Pax Christi USA and Pax Christi International, we are the international Catholic peace movement in the United States. And if you see all these drawings here, God is love, mass deportation is evil, which is a Catholic teaching. So we're just living out our faith. That's why we're here. So, God loves everyone. And whatever J.D. Vance says, which, by the way, the Pope said he was wrong before he passed away, in case anybody missed that one. But what J.D. Vance said was complete garbage. We are called to love everyone unconditionally and infinitely.